we are excited. Welcome to the Greg DeVille Let's Talk Real Estate Show right here. We've got Alexis Brown of Alexis Brown Law. We're excited today to talk about some great information that we feel would help the community. Listen, if you've been in forbearance, with your mortgage, things have been quite unusual, to say the least, with this whole COVID deal. What we want to do is make sure that we're helping and getting out information. So I have asked to have Mr. Alexis come share some information with us that will help you understand a little bit about the mortgage forbearance. So I'm going to give her a chance, and I want to introduce you to Ms. Alexis Brown, and we're going to have some great information that I feel will help. So thank you, Alexis, for coming on this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Greg. I appreciate it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we spoke a bit about the mortgage crisis and how mortgage forbearance right now. We want to talk about many are in default with their mortgages. And because they are, many are stressed out. Let's just be 100. They're stressed out because they don't know if the bank's going to allow them to maintain the property or if they're going to demand them to bring the full payment, default payment current. I've had a few who've contacted my office and stated the bank is requesting the full payment. And with that being said, they're like, we have equity in the home, but we can't refinance it because we're in default. And I've had families with $180,000 can't access it because they're in default. What's a great option right now? What do you feel would help?
Well, if you are not able to make the default payment and bring the whole loan current, if you're in that notice of default and intent to accelerate stage, but it hasn't moved any forward and you do have equity, a sale certainly would be, a way to get away from that if you're not able to qualify for a refinance because now your credit is hit and all those kinds of things, right? Yeah, certainly that would be an option. And before it ever gets to that sale date, way before, please, reach out to someone to talk about your options before it ever gets to an actual date. Because once that date is set, your time now is so short.
It's short.
And you've had a lot of time, there's a lot of time in Nevada, that lenders and their trustees on these deeds of trust have to give to homeowners before they actually set a sale date. So if you're, getting those, checking your mail, getting those from your mailbox, please.
Yes.
And paying attention to them and are actually speaking to the right people, hopefully at the bank as well, then, you can either take advantage of a program they may have or do something else. If they don't have that and they are asking, it sounds like some people, some of these banks are still, of course, asking for the whole payment.
Oh, yeah.
They want to move forward.
Right.
And in those cases, if you have equity, why not get it out? That's money sitting there. Why not get it out if you can? And do something with it.
So the pre-foreclosure, so what we're finding, and you mentioned briefly about reading your mail. One of the big, push that I have for homeowners today is that if you know you're in default, please, I know we don't want to read the mail. We're like, no more bad news. I know I owe you. I can't do anything about it. But they may be selling your property, and then once they put it on the market, the sale date goes forward. Guess what happens? You'll hear from one or two persons. One may be the new owner who's serving you a notice. The other one may be from the realtor who says, I'm representing the buyer and we need you to vacate the property. But you didn't call DeVille Realty when we can do a pre-foreclosure sale. Guess what? You may have $180,000 in equity. I've had families with $140,000. Guess what? It was over a year and a half ago, but they're homeowners again. Isn't that great? They're homeowners again. And the wonderful part about it, you take the equity in your home, you rent for about a year. Big deal. I know you love your home. Here's the problem, Alexis. Many are attached to their homes, and they don't want to let it go. And they rather stress and be upside down and just worry all the time. They don't even want to read the mail. And so we're asking you, please, ma'am, sir, read your mail because the mail has a sale date possibly. As she mentioned, there are ample notice sent to you. You're getting letters and letters upon letters, but you're not opening. I would recommend the last two letters you received, that you open those last two for certain. Because one of those, either one may have a sale date. It may have a sale. And so if you got the sale date, we can still do a pre-foreclosure sale, but we have to expedite it. You can't try to get the max. Right now you need to sell it for maybe a little less just to do a quick sale. So that, because if the bank, and let's talk about it. Let's be real about this. If the bank forecloses, right, Alexis? And you have equity. I haven't seen anyone get a check in the mail. And I've been in real estate over 30 years.
Well, technically,
Okay.
so this is a deficiency issue, right? And whether or not the bank is entitled to those extra funds, and the rule is basically no, they're not actually entitled to it.
Okay.
But they're going to sell your house, quote unquote, at fair market value,
right,
at the trustee sale.
Right.
And if there is equity, they are supposed to pay off the loan, and then if there's taxes and things, whatever is due for the house,
right,
they are entitled to use that money from the sale for that.
Right.
And then if there is money left over, they are supposed to return it. If there is equity, they are supposed to return it. But a lot of times fair market value will sometimes end up being what's owed on the loan, right? Or back in, of course, the crash days, there were huge deficiency judgments that these lenders were trying to get from homeowners. You know what I mean? Whereas now with the equity, that shouldn't be a thing. But why tie up your money for any amount of time, even if they do eventually send you something back because they owe you money after the whole song and dance is all done, and that's months and months potentially.
They drag it out, right?
Whereas with a sale, you do have your immediate
there you go.
access to your funds.
There you
at
go.
least, and you can take the money out of the house. Why let the bank do that?
Right, and delay the process, because once the bank sells, even if they were, I haven't seen it. Maybe you have. You're a lawyer. I haven't seen anyone or heard of anyone giving me a call saying, DeVille, they sent me an equity check. I'm like, I haven't received that yet. I haven't heard that call. I haven't received that call. However, the pre-foreclosure sales means you get it now, because if they do take it, you've got to move out with no monies, relocate. God knows to rent today is awful. They want as much to rent a house as it takes to purchase a home. These management companies are asking for you to make 3 times the amount of rent, 3 times the amount of the deposit to rent the property, and and they're taking 10 and 15 out. One property, they took 15 applications to rent it to one. So they're trying to change the law here in Nevada to, I think 3 to 5 apps would be the most a property management could take. I don't know if it's been signed yet, but I've heard that it was being, put before the governor to make that amend so that 10 applications on one property at $75 a pop. Really? And you pretty much kind of know in the beginning, you look at the credit, you're like, okay, well, let's cut it off right here. Out of 5, someone's clearly, and then they're supposed to give you the money back. Again, that's an issue. A lot of people aren't getting their money back after putting in, and they'll say non-refundable, right? And so, are they getting their monies back? That's the other question. So there's so much challenge and defrauding in the real estate. And so when you meet someone who's legitimately honest, that loves what they do, who appreciate being true to the market. And the other thing is we're seeing, Alexis, where they're taking 20 offers on one property to sell. Oh my God, this 20, 30,000 above appraisal business, it's getting to be really, really over the top. And so let me give you our contact information. I'm Greg DeVille, 702-515-4100. Greg DeVille, DeVille Realty Group. I'm live in the studio with Alexis Brown of Alexis Brown Law. And we're talking about forbearance for a moment, because many of you out there are homeowners and you lost your job. I was passing the Rancho. I'm going to try to look at you from here and not turn around. I was passing the Rancho Boulevard right there at Lake Mead, and I noticed the Texas Casino, what's the other one? The Fiesta. All those jobs, they're closed down. All those jobs, they've had to have had homeowners that worked in those places out of work. Many are homeowners. Many of you are listening to me today, or you know someone this information can help. Have them contact us. Now, again, to sell your home while it's early. I know you're attached, you don't want to let it go, but clearly this may be the best option for you. Now, we can get the activity moving by doing a CMA, comparative market analysis, finding out what the values are. Once we determine, here's your value. Now, if the home sold for $380 down the street and it's got all the bells and whistles, you can't sell for $380 necessarily. You don't have the bells and whistles. However, we'll get the best price possible so that you can get the equity out of the home. In many cases, time is of the essence. So you don't have a ton of time to, put it on the market, let it wait. No, we need to get a buyer in it. We need to close it in 30 days, because every month, guess what? That's a late judgment. That's a deficiency late. Those late fees, wouldn't you agree, Alexis, are astronomical.
It certainly can be. Depends on what is in your contract, of course. But yeah, when you default, there going to get as much as they can under their contract.
Absolutely.
And that's again why the equity is typically stripped away from a property if it's sold by a bank in foreclosure, because they're adding on all of the fees and interest and penalties and everything else that they can think of in order to take away that money from the homeowner.
Now, earlier you mentioned in our previous show, you mentioned about the right hand knowing with the left hand and the left hand not knowing with the right hand. Explain that to our Facebook audience today.
Sure. So basically the concept is that if you're in default of your loan and you're speaking to your banker or the bank directly, they're of course going to take your money and tell you, yes, we'll work with you, and of course we'll accept your payments and those kinds of things. But the default situation and the sale part of it comes out of a whole different building, a whole different department. The deeds of trust are held by trustees, and then they're the ones that are really responsible for taking the steps on the foreclosure. And it's a large corporation, so the bank is over here, and the bank is not actually in the business of holding the property. The trustee is the one that holds the deeds and then would take care of the properties. So, and that one, they don't always communicate well together. And so this one is going to, the right hand, the trustee is going to send you all of the mail. They're going to be sending you the notices and all of that kind of thing in your mailbox. And the bank is going to be talking to you, sure, and saying, we'll work with you. But then you're getting these notices still because the two are not mingling.
Right.
So you have to really reach out to the right side in order to make sure that the foreclosure sale stops. Or if you have a sale date now pending, to try and get, basically, we don't need to do this, we're going to sell the house kind of thing. And make sure you're notifying the trustee in the proper channels in order to get that handled, right? So
to the person asking the question, I did receive my notice of default sale with a sale date. What is an option that I have right now, being that I got the notice? What is an option I have?
Well, there are several options. There should have been a notice about foreclosure mediation. Of course, a sale is still an option. Bankruptcy is sometimes an option. There's a lot of different things that, of course, homeowners can take advantage of. And right now, especially with COVID, there's a ton of resources out there for homeowners to try to stop these foreclosures, and there's a lot of money that was injected by the government. The Department of Housing and Urban Development has so many lists of resources for homeowners if they really want to explore anything COVID relief. If it really is COVID related, then why not take advantage if you can? But yeah, so there's a ton of options to be able to pursue, but definitely a sale if you're ready to take the cash out and just, start over, right? Of course, I understand absolutely how much, meaning it is to have a house, and to have those roots and all of those kinds of things. But I'm also a firm believer that sometimes one door closes and another one opens.
There you
right?
go. Good stuff.
And so if that is something you're facing right now and it makes sense, then why not take advantage of the fact that the market is great? I don't know. The market is so high right now, and if you do have equity, and it might be your best option, because if you do have equity and you file bankruptcy, well, you might not qualify for a liquidation. You might now have to do a reorganization of yourself, and then you're basically still stuck in your payments and those kinds of things. But it is an option, of course, for some people if you qualify.
Right.
So not everybody qualifies for bankruptcy protection, even though right now there's COVID issues and things like that.
Now, bankruptcy, I hear a lot of people talk about, it's not always the best option. It's not always the best route to take. People say, I'll just bankrupt. Let me say this. You bankrupt and any equity you have is tied up. You can't touch the funds. So why bankrupt when, here's the great thing I want you to understand. You sell the property, right? You take the 180, you take the 150, you take the 80,000. So you have to rent for a year. Guess what? Pay down some bills. Because although you bankrupt, you still make payment arrangements, and guess what happens now? Your money is still, that equity is still tied up. So you're not doing yourself a favor, because you're still out of work, your bills are still piling up, you're still getting late notices. Sometimes that's not the best option. People are always quick to run to bankruptcy. And so I would say to anyone, let's look at, give me a call. Here's what we'll do. Contact my office, 702. Matter of fact, contact me directly, 702-349-0162. Here's what we'll do. We'll look at the value of your property, the current market value, and let's look at what you owe. Okay, we'll find out what you owe based on what's current value. That middle number, that's equity. Let's determine how much equity's there. Is it worth fighting over another year and being out of finances because you've been out of work? Bills are still there. Or do we take the equity and let's say, okay, we'll rent. We could pay 3 months in advance. A landlord will take you if you got 3 months in advance. Just FYI, you know. So we rent for a year, but we've got this 180,000. We can get out of the hole. We can get out of the red. We can pay off some things. Number one, getting that big mortgage off our back. That monkey right there is just, it makes you, when you start thinking about it, you can't even go back to sleep. In fact, if you wake up in the middle of the night, say you make a restroom run, and you just can't go back to sleep because it taunts you. It's like, how am I going to get, I don't want to lose my home. You'll get another home. You got that home. The possibility is in with a year and a half possibly. Listen, you'll have some money to put down. You'll have some money to pay towards your closing costs. You'll pay off some bills. You'll be back in the game. So again, Greg DeVille, 702-515-4100. Or again, contact me direct, 702-349-0162. That's the name, the number you need to contact. So we're going to talk about the credit dispute. Well, let's talk about the increase in sales. How is that happening? Why are we increasing? Well, I've got a spreadsheet here that told us why the sales are up. Look at this. In the month of, wow, this is the month of May, 3,500 homes sold. Oh, I'm supposed to look at you through here. 3,500 homes sold in Las Vegas Valley in the month of May. How is it in a pandemic?
Well, real property holds its value.
It holds its value. Yep,
real property holds its value, which is why people like to invest in it, of course.
Right.
But I think an interesting fact that I guess I wasn't really considering, when COVID happened, bankruptcy attorneys, speaking of that, were talking about, it's going to be a rash of bankruptcy filings, right?
Right.
But the reality is that actual personal funds are up, savings are up, and debt is actually down. Like people are actually priming themselves to become homeowners.
Absolutely.
Or get out of this hole if they really want to. And sort of lost my train of thought there, but I think that because of that, I think that the market is changing. I think people are moving here, people are moving away. There's a lot of shifting that seems to just be happening around the country at the moment, I feel like. Probably in part because of COVID. People are like, let me make a life change because, I was in this hole for so long, so let me make a life change. And they're coming here to do that. And Nevada, I grew up here. I'm a native to Las Vegas. And, I have seen this town grow from literally nothing and property values be so small to what they are now, and there's so much opportunity here. So I think that's why there's such an influx of folks here. And we've got all these great houses, right?
And we've got great homes. And one of the other things that I want to add to your statement is the interest rates. They have taken off. We started off at a 2.875. You're purchasing, I got a fella just yesterday closed on a deal, and his interest rate was 2.7. Like, where's that?
Incredible.
His mortgage payment. Listen, he was 70 years. He's 70 years old, not was. He's 70 years old. Been on this job 40 years. Been hearing my radio talk show and decided the landlord he's been living in his house 11 years. Landlord been promising to sell him the home. So he asked, the landlord actually called him and says, well, I decided not to sell. He's been waiting 3 years to purchase the home he lives in. He's been renting for 11 years. The landlord calls us, well, I decided I'm not going to sell. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the rent by $350. So now, not only are your dreams of buying the home you're in crushed, now your rent's going up. Well, he had been hearing the Greg DeVille Let's Talk Real Estate show for a number of years. He decided maybe this is time now to contact Greg DeVille. Listen, he made the contact to DeVille. What did he call? He called 702-515-4100. When he made the contact, we set him with a lender. He got approved on the spot. Many of you can, there's another client. Shout out to the Light family. Came in the office, been hearing the radio show. Guess what? Came in, trained the agents. Before you do a rental, let's consider purchase. Did an application with the lender right there in my office with Alex Wells. Guess what? The lender says, you guys are good for $310,000. Did you know that? They're like, we didn't think, we never thought we could own a house again. Guess what? We're approved on the spot. Many of you listening today, you're shooting yourself in the foot looking for a rental. What rentals are asking, 600 and plus credit score, 3 times the amount of rent. If you got 3 times the amount of rent, that's a toward it down. Matter of fact, I got $15,000 is what I have. $15,000 towards your down payment. You need to have at least a 620 FICO score. if you have at least, in fact, I got a program without a FICO, but the income ratios, the debt ratios can't exceed 43%. There are several programs available to help with the down payment. Now, if you have a 401k, you simply need a 580 credit score. $300,000 home is 3.5%, is $10,500. Many of you have that in your 401k. Well, my scores, they only require a 580 credit score. So with this type of information, this will make you want to move on something versus these. Another one called me 2 months ago. She said, Mr. DeVille, my lease is going to be up. She called me back in May. She disclosed that her lease would be up, Alexis, in July. The owner says, if you're going to remain to sign another lease, I'm going up $400. She went from paying $1,400 a month to $1,800 a month. There are no rental restrictions. Guess what? She said, well, I'm looking for another house. I said, no, you need to stay where you are. Let this be the last year that you're going to rent, because by the time you move, you pay all those deposits. You may as well just pay. The rental market is crazy. You're not going to find anything. She's got a 4-bedroom, nice area. Listen, pay the $1,800. Don't pack a thing. Just draw a line and say, this is my last year. So the interest rates have been phenomenal. Sales are up. In December, we had 4,000 homes sold in December. Can you imagine why? Interest rates. Home sales are up in a pandemic. October, 3,800 homes sold. Isn't that amazing? In a pandemic. So I'm here to share with you. We have with us Alexis Brown of Alexis Law, and we want to make sure that we're getting more information to you. So while we've got plenty of notes, the increase in sales. Now, we talked about earlier on the other show, credit dispute issues. Let's talk about people that are having credit challenges.
Sure. So there's so many ways to protect yourself there, of course. But if you're having inaccuracies on your credit reports, you can reach out to the credit agencies and dispute them. And if the inaccuracies are, as they're removed, it can certainly help raise your credit score quite a lot. And we can talk maybe a little later about tenants, how they can if they do have to leave a tenancy, they can protect their credit for the time while they're rebuilding themselves.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely ways to do that, because your landlords have to make sure that they're notifying you about your security deposit and what they've done with it. They give you a security deposit accounting within 30 days of when your tenancy ends. For any reason, no matter what reason your tenancy ends, your landlord's supposed to do that. And then, but you have an obligation as a tenant then to respond within 30 days and say, I dispute this for whatever reason. A lot of times landlords will put things that are not really collectible. Not usable for a security deposit, so you can dispute that, and there's a statute in Nevada that says that if you have done that dispute, then the landlord is not supposed to report the debt, the account to your credit agencies unless and until they get a judgment against you. So they have to go through that whole process of filing a lawsuit, getting a judgment. You can of course present defenses in court if you get sued, those kinds of things, but they cannot actually report it unless and until they get a judgment. And a lot of times, because depending on the amount owed or that kind of thing, at least historically and before COVID, and amounts, those kind of became due. But a lot of times landlords wouldn't pursue that because it wasn't a lot of money and those kinds of things. So if you protect yourself that way, well, then it's not hitting your credit more, or anything like that while you're now moving on for another year or doing those kinds of things. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. We have a question here. Edward asked a question. He says, do you know of any lenders? He hasn't been on his job 2 years, right? And are there any lenders who could still help? So that question to you, thank you for tuning in, Edward. Listen, they do require 2 years on the job. However, if you transferred from one position to another job, you just change locations of employment. Your industry, if you were a nurse, you're still a nurse, you're just at a different location. We can couple those years together to create the 2 years, okay? So you don't have to, if you're a truck driver, you just change companies, you're still a truck driver, you're still in the same industry. So we can utilize the previous employment history to couple with what you have now. And thank you for tuning in all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. The many of you that are listening, shouts out to you, Dre Johnson. They said bring you on camera. There you are. Let's get you on camera here. Listen, the many of you are calling, and we're live on the air. It's okay. Don't, just leave me a message. We certainly will get back with you. 702-515-4100, 702-349-0162. Greg DeVille Realty Group. You're listening to us live here on Facebook. Thank you so much. And then we have Alexis with Alexis Brown Law, giving us great information. Again, you've been renting. Now, we spoke again also, Alexis, to those who rented and are renting, but were employed, but took advantage of the system and decided to not pay because the moratorium gave them a pass, but they were still working. And now they're mad at the landlord because he's requesting relocation. He's requesting you to move out, and you're fussing, but you never. So those that take advantage.
Yeah. So there certainly were, COVID devastated countless people, but there absolutely have been people that were taking advantage. Hopefully the landlords were addressing it in eviction court. At least in Nevada, you could, or actually across the country, you could request an evidentiary hearing to say whether or not the tenant was actually being truthful on their CDC declarations. Mm-hmm. That, of course, is now expired. The moratoriums are all expired now, but just because you weren't paying rent doesn't mean you weren't supposed to, and COVID does not relieve you of any of your contractual obligations to pay rent. And even if your contract expires or you don't have a contract, you're supposed to pay the fair value for renting the place. You've had a house over your, roof over your head, or
right.
An apartment or whatever it may be. You've had a place to live and put your head, and so you are supposed to pay rent. That doesn't mean during COVID even landlords were still supposed to comply with their rental obligations and things like that. But now that it's over, a landlord is entitled to ask for these things. There is a form on the Clark County's the government website for a promissory note and addendum to a lease agreement. So you can enter into some kind of arrangement with your landlord to make payments on those amounts in order to make sure you can stay in a place or whatever the case may be. If your landlord is willing to work with you, and hopefully a lot of landlords would be, but you can make sure you get it in writing. That's always the best thing, because if you don't have it in writing, then they can just move forward. With their eviction notices for non-payment and that kind of thing. But also, there's another issue for landlords, right? What do these landlords do? Because these landlords are facing these large amounts. They haven't been paid in a year, even if it was because of the fact that someone maybe couldn't pay because of COVID related items. There's a lot of things where tenants can apply for assistance for that, for one. But for the landlords, they've got these contracts that now they maybe want to collect on or don't want to collect on, and the tenants should still pay it. They're still obligated to. So I hope that the landlords are doing what they need to do. There are collection companies, there are attorneys, there are people that they can turn to try and help maybe get some recovery to recoup some of their losses. But also the tenants can work together with their landlords and get, CHAPS assistance. That's the CARES Housing Assistance Program, if I could speak this morning.
You could.
The CHAPS program is really there for renters. If they're struggling because of COVID, they can try to apply for funds to pay their back rent. You know what I mean? And why not try to do that if the government's willing to give you the money for it?
So you actually, at your law firm, Alexis Brown Law, have tenant right. You help tenants with tenants right.
I sure do. So I do a lot of landlord-tenant work, real estate issues, but I really do enjoy helping tenants. I offer a class, a 90-minute virtual class for a small fee, to kind of give a broad overarch of really all of the procedures and processes and kind of how to maybe address things in court. But really in our consultations, because I look at documents, I look at your emails and your lease agreements and all of that kind of stuff, and then I can give you a roadmap potentially of how to handle whatever the issue is that you're facing, and give you the direction on what you can do next and how you might respond and all of that, and then you can move on and do it on your own if you need to, want to, can't afford to pay me, but if you want help, you can always come back. So that's where I really love to help people and give them as much information in 30 minutes or an hour as I possibly can while I'm with them, so that way they can do it themselves. Because a lot of stuff in the tenant world, in the court system, is actually not, it's not that difficult. It's fairly straightforward, but some people get scared, and if you have someone you can talk to who can give you the information and empower you to do it, that's really what I love to do and help people with. Yeah.
So give them your contact information with those rental rights for tenants and landlords as well, because you can help landlords too, because many are in a position like, I don't know what to do, and they were, now as we mentioned, many really sincerely had issues of loss of jobs, employment, but they were renting, And so maybe they need your assistance. What number would you have them contact to reach you?
Sure, you can reach my office at 702-848-8806. There is always someone available to answer a call there, and happy to schedule a consultation with anyone who is wanting one and needing one. So there's just so many issues. There's lots of great landlords, lots of bad landlords, lots of great tenants, lots of bad tenants.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
some of everything everywhere,
There
right?
really is so much of everything, and so I just really love to give people as much information as I can when they're able to schedule a consultation with me.
Give us that number again, would you?
Sure, again, 702-848-8806. And I do have a Facebook, Alexis Brown Law, my website, alexisbrownlaw.com, and then also tenantjustice.vegas is another of my websites.
Oh, you got to give that again. You went too fast. Somebody's trying to write it down and
Sure.
say, "Hold on, we just can't hear them."
Sure, I'll give it again.
Yes.
alexisbrownlaw.com is my primary website, but then tenantjustice.vegas also links to my website.
Okay. So as a real estate professional, I'm not big with the tenants, but I understand the situation we're facing right now, because my goal and my whole objective between radio, Facebook, and everything that I do is to have or empower you to create wealth. Wealth through equity. My slogan at DeVille Realty is creating wealth through equity. I want to see you begin to, because when you're renting, you're paying a mortgage, you're just paying someone else's mortgage, and they're getting the equity from that. So you're reducing the principal, and the values continue to rise, so they owe less, and now the value's more. Guess what? That's equity. So the landlord is receiving that each time you pay a mortgage payment. So I understand you need this assistance. That's why Alexis is here today. Again, her number is 702-848-8806. Contact her. She can assist you. But remember, when we're talking about buying, selling, or contact DeVille Realty, 702-515-4100. Or contact my number directly, 702-349-0162. We're here to help. As she's mentioned over and again, she just wants to help you. Now, there is a minimal fee, of course. I mean, you're offering a service.
Peace of mind comes, you know what I mean?
There you
Obviously, for the amount of a consultation,
Yes.
really what I do offer is a lot of peace of mind for people to know what their rights are, how to exercise them, when to exercise them, what to do to get somewhere closer to the result that they want, because they've been having issues with their tenant or with their landlord, whatever the case may be. They're having issues with their rental, you know what I mean? And they just have questions about, what does this all mean? I got this notice, I got whatever it is, how do I respond to this, and what is my best next step, and that kind of thing.
It's worth paying for. You said a minimal fee. I mean, listen, as you stated, a peace of mind. We'll pay. Some people love shopping. That's their peace of mind. I love boating. That's my peace of mind. So whatever your peace of mind is, and you're dealing in this dilemma, someone who knows the answers, has the answers, and are willing to share with you, say, listen, I'm just here to help you. And I like her spirit, because she's much like we are. We're here to help. As a real estate broker with 3 locations, we're in Green Valley, Henderson, Boca Park, Summerlin, North Centennial, Las Vegas area. Guess what? We're just here to help you. 702-515-4100. You need to sell that property, get the equity out. You'll get another home. It may take you a year, may take a year or 2, what have you. You'll get another home. I know you, and the sad part is we've fallen in love with our homes, but the COVID crisis has made it challenging. So again, for someone just tuning in, you're in default, you may have a sale date, you need to read your mail. Go get those, I hope you're not tearing and destroying the letters. Because, people just hate mail, especially when it's from a bank. You're like, oh, but I already know. I don't want to see it again. I want to enjoy my weekend. I'm asking you, before the 4th of July gets here, go read your mail. And you'll be glad, because guess what? You have Greg DeVille, the broker at DeVille Realty. You have Alexis Brown of Alexis Law Group. Guess what? We're here. If you're in the rental, if you're in the real estate, here we are. We're a great team. We're here to service you. Minimal fees. In fact, my fees are free to the buyer. Free buyer representation. The seller pays the commission. So we're here to offer you a service. Now, if you're the seller, commissions are negotiable. I always tell people, they go to work to get paid. They want us to just provide a service. Well, but you go to work to get paid. Why is it we can't work and get paid? Now, we can negotiate to pay, but I have to get paid. I have a lovely wife who, yes. you know where I'm going with that. So, you know, and then I have a boat I got to pay for every month on the lake. You know, I have my expenses as you do. Now, if you're in default, remember, we can help you there. If you're in rental issues, again, Alexis Brown Law, that number to reach her is 702-848-8806. Contact her. Get the question, set up a meeting. She told you, she said, listen, we'll do a consultation with you. It's a minimal fee. But listen, I got to run to the office. I got to gas up my car. I got to take time. I got to buy a Starbucks, you know.
And I really spend time. Like, that's the
Yeah.
thing. I mean, I spend time to prepare. I spend time to
There
chat.
you go.
You know what I mean? And really try to make sure that it's worth, you know, the expense of it,
Right.
the small expense of it. But, you know, actually, if I could, I've heard you mention a couple of times about rent to own. Oh, you guys, they're just not good. You know what I mean? They're so, if you do not document a rent-to-own situation, you don't have a rent-to-own situation. You don't have one. And the thing is you really should have a lawyer or somebody with a keen eye, some kind of professional look at a rent-to-own type of agreement, because they're hard to enforce. You ultimately almost always end up in court about it. You know what I mean?
And you lose.
Oh, and sometimes, and if you don't, even if you were to get the property, you have spent so much time and effort and frustration to get this thing. And the thing is, this property is unique. That's why people are so keen on it. And of course, it's, you know, it's my property, it's my roots, all of those things. So I do get it. But yeah, rent to own stuff, just buy. Go, you know, reach out to Greg and find a home. You know what I mean? That you can buy of yourself, because rent to own situations are typically, I mean, you know, unless you've really documented it properly, it can be very challenging to enforce them. And unless you really, you know, I mean, have a landlord that's going to abide by the agreement that you've made, you know, they can be very, very difficult. So, try to do it right, or don't do it at all. Just know you're renting, and then move into a house. You know, get a real estate agent like Greg here, and find a place.
There you go. There you go. So we do offer. There is a company. It's called Trio. We have a few agents in the office who actually work with this company, getting rent to owns. You're purchasing it, and it's a contract. They actually purchased the home. Your name is on the deed. It's actually a great service. We've done several. I personally don't have the time to do them, but Trina Brown, so many others are out there of our agents that are doing them, and they're very successful with them. So we do offer some of those, but they, you know, we've already proven it to work. We looked at the documents. Title has really stepped in and watched and looked out for, and you know, it's been through a law firm to confirm that what they're saying is true.
Right. So make sure you have a good agent on your side. If you are going to do a rent-to-own situation, document it properly. Have a good agent, because and you know, it sounds like they've got a good program in there. You know, a company that's doing it to offer that service. Highly recommend, if that is your plan, to do a rent-to-own situation, to do it like that.
Absolutely.
And I think really, you know, someone who is doing a rent-to-own, if that is their plan, they should properly document it, you know, because otherwise all you have is a verbal agreement, and for something like this, that's not enough. Absolutely,
absolutely. So again, so she's helping you if you have. We didn't get to talk about it. The credit dispute. So there are people now, right now. Let me share real brief. Back in 2015, you know, I lost property back in 2006, 8, and all those. You know, it was just a crazy time. We lost lovers. So many things have happened to us. Our credit has really taken a hit. Back in 2015, speaking to my lender, because I was a realtor then as well, but you know, I wasn't ready. My credit score had taken a hit. I wasn't in position. But here's the great thing about lenders and those that work with credit issues, is they're able to look at it and give you a game plan. I like to call it a prescription. You know, when you go to the doctor, he says, take this prescription 7 days and, you know, you'll feel better. Come back and see me in 2 weeks. Why not 7 days? I don't know. But see me in 2 weeks. Take this for 7 days. We take it for 3 days and we feel better, so we stop taking it. Just so you know, doctor. And then we feel it again. We go back to that prescription and we say, oh, better take it again. I didn't finish. Nonetheless, the lenders will give you, again, a prescription, a directive, if you will, you know, a game plan, how to get ready. I tell people all the time, if you're not ready, it's never no. It's never no. It's always maybe just not right now. With the game plan, we can win the game. What is the game? Homeownership. How do we win? I'm the coach. Listen to your coach. Coach is telling, let me get you with a lender. Let the lender do the application. Don't guess. Edward, don't guess. Contact my office, Edward. Let's do this. Let's see whatever job you had in the past, how we can make that job work with what you're doing now. so that we can give you the past history of employment for record to show that you have 2 years of history, and you've completed your tax return for the past 2 years. Now remember, they are looking for a minimum 580 FICO. Now, we didn't speak to the veteran. The veteran, I got a program right now, you can get a 560 credit score. Now where do you find that? Listen, they're out there. The lenders want to lend. So they're for veterans, and we want to pause and appreciate you for your service. Now, with these programs that we do offer at DeVille Realty Group, we're #1 in the Valley. We're the largest black-owned real estate in the Valley, in Nevada, the largest black-owned real estate company. We specialize in helping challenge clients who maybe credit just isn't there. How can we fix it? I'm not discouraged. I don't want you to be discouraged because I've been there. Guess what? I own my home now. It's going on 5 years. I have over $160,000 in equity. And just how can you save $160,000 in 5 years, 4.5 years? How are you going to do it? It's called wealth through equity, and that's what I'm trying to get you into. Wealth through equity. I brought on today Alexis Brown with Alexis Brown Law, and we're here to help you understand. If you're in the rental, Alexis can help you. If you've got rental crisis, rental questions, you want to know landlord. This is for landlords and tenants, right, Alexis?
Absolutely, yes, of course. It's the same laws that apply to both.
There you
so
go.
Absolutely, I do help typically private landlords,
landlords.
private, and then tenants of all types, and I do commercial real estate as commercial tenancies as well.
There you go.
So,
okay.
Any area of landlord-tenant law, I love to do.
Wonderful.
As far as like the credit disputing stuff goes, you know what I mean. The way to really do it, again, if you have these inaccuracies, and that's really what it's about, is getting rid of the inaccuracies that may be on your report in order to boost your score, right?
Right.
And so what you can do is you can go to the credit agencies, the big three, right? And you can make disputes about the inaccuracies on your reports. And then if they don't, there's a sort of process that the credit agencies have to follow with the creditor and all of that kind of stuff in order to try to validate the debts or everything like that. And if they don't, or is not validated, if they can't validate it, or something is wrong, then it comes off of your credit.
There you go.
And so those removals, when those inaccuracies and things like that come off of your credit, what happens?
Scores up. There you go. There you go. That's
so,
it.
And there's times there, of course, there's things. There's so many programs out there for that too. But certainly there are lawyers that are willing to help. I don't do that myself in my office. I do partner though with firms outside of my office, so you can call me for those things as well. But partner outside of my office that do these kinds of help clients with these sorts of disputes, and we'll do that on sort of a contingency basis. And the reason they do that is because if there are inaccuracies and they're not resolved, well, then now there's claims, there's legal claims that give rise to that. So there are attorneys and that are willing to take those on and help out with that to kind of help clients deal with it. Again, the result is this. There's also other like credit protection agencies. Some of them can be scammy. You have to be really careful about those. But there are good credit protection agencies and credit repair agencies that will try and help you with that dispute process as well. And in order to again, do the thing and raise up your credit scores. Because again, a 560, a 580, that's not bad. That's not too terrible. I mean, that's reasonably paying your rent and paying your bills and those kinds of things. So if there's a way that you can clean up your credit at all that way, then certainly do it. I think another good thing that people can do as well is speak with a financial planner. Financial planners are also really wonderful about giving information about how you set yourself up for your next step. You know what I mean? You can talk to a financial planner, but of course, if you're specifically in the market for homeownership, who you're going to talk to? But a great real estate agent who can say, "This is what we need to get you qualified for this program."
Greg DeVille Realty.
That's the one. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot that you can do to try to get yourself in a home and kind of raise up that credit score a little bit. Of course, even Experian has like that Experian boost, kind of thing. But really, the way to kind of get rid of all the inaccuracies that may be there and really clean things up, the best way is to kind of do the dispute process.
There you go. There you go. And again, those of you just tuning in, you want to speak with Alexis of Alexis Brown Law, 702-848-8806. That's her contact. Now, if you're in that forbearance, in that foreclosure situation, DeVille Realty, 702-787-7559 or 702-349-0162. Contact us. I'm here to help in the real estate. She's here to help in the law side. Let's team up. Let's make a way that we can get you in a great position. You just have to make the contact to us. We don't know you're in trouble unless you contact us. We can help you. Again, don't lose your equity because the bank they may have enough junk fees in there that whatever equity, they'll suck it up, and it's just fine. I still say I haven't seen anyone receive a check. So
again, they're very good at making those calculations go up and up, in order to get that money out. But with equity so high right now, I mean, it just there's fair market value is still a thing, and honestly, if there are consumers that are not receiving their equity checks if they're entitled to them, I imagine there's going to be some lawyers that are going to be filing some claims about those things if it actually happens. Those kinds of things. But still, the point is if you have equity, why even try to risk tying it up? Why do that? If you're really in a position where refinancing right now is not at all possible, and your only option really is or a really good option for you, and you see the future of oh yeah, I have this much, I can talk to a financial planner, put it in a bank, maybe do these things in order to set myself up. Renting is not a bad, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Of course, we want to be homeowners, but if right now your situation is such that you need to get out of a house, then put your pieces back together and go back. And that's what you would have to do if you filed bankruptcy and you liquidated anyways. And the thing with bankruptcy, of course, is, there's credit issues for years after you're done with the bankruptcy that you can't now go buy a home or anything like that. If you were to sell your house and use that equity to pay down your debts and get yourself really in a good position. Well, now your credit's gone up in the year. It hasn't gone down in the years, it's gone up. And now you're in this year time, you're in that position that you can buy or whatever you want to do with that.
Renting is like a Band-Aid. Have you ever had a sore and you in the beginning you put a Band-Aid? This is a rental. It's the Band-Aid. We're going to take it off. Within a year, guess what? We're in a great place. Now, if you are in the position and you're in default, you have an HOA in your home, with your home, you haven't paid the mortgage, pay that HOA. Because the junk fees for HOA are astronomical. Trust me, they have I've seen junk fees as much as $21,000. Junk fees. Because they didn't pay the HOA. They didn't pay the mortgage, they didn't. Listen, HOA, $40, $60, $80.
You go on and on.
Oh my God. They have their own police academy. They will take your property. You're fearing the bank? Listen, the bank may work with you. The bank may give you modification, but you know who's going to foreclose next? The HOA.
And the thing about the HOA is they have a super priority.
Oh, yes.
So that's a fun, fancy term for they can foreclose even though there's a mortgage.
Yeah.
So they have, I think it's 9 months as my statutory recollection. So they have a 9-month super priority lien.
Yep.
And it's been litigated about a lot because of the last crash and there were HOAs foreclosing then as well. And did that super priority status wipe out the foreclosure or wipe out the mortgage, or did it, what did it do? And those kinds of things. But they can foreclose on you for 9 months or less, basically of your or 9 months of your HOA fees, which in some cases is not very much, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so definitely pay those HOA dues. But if you have HOA issues, that's also something I'd help people with. There's certainly a lot of times that people struggle with their HOAs and things like that. Your first step is always to go to the NRED, the Nevada Real Estate Division, and file the ombudsman complaint, so usually I tell people they can do that on their own, but that's the first step, you know what I mean? And getting some information on how to do that, or, a lot of times, sometimes people want to move forward because there are some bad actor HOAs in this town too. Some really great ones, but also some really not so good ones.
So when you own a mortgage, you're not late until after the 15th of the month. But if you have an HOA that you haven't paid, those junk fees add up, and because they get so expensive, the junk fees are more than the HOA fee. So you may
they will literally nickel and dime you. The management companies, the HOA management companies, they are really good at this $100, this $50, this notice fee, this document fee, this postage. They are really, and sometimes those fees are a little overstated. It seems like, but
they are.
But they will rack up that bill, and then if you do go to sell your house, then they're going to take it from your equity.
Exactly. So that's,
why let that even happen?
There you go. And if you are delinquent right now, pay July's bill. If you haven't paid the mortgage, at least pay the HOA. I have a client, I'm selling his home, we're in escrow, but he at least kept paying the HOA. Okay, I sold him a home a few years ago, pandemic hit, things happened. He said, hey, I'm going to have to sell because I'm a few months behind and it doesn't look like I'm going to catch up. And I need to sell. I'll just rent for a while, get back on my feet. And so we had a buyer right there in the office. I'm telling you, many of you that are looking to sell, we have buyers right on standby. I have a team of 40 plus agents on my team. we're a team. We've got buyers, we've got sellers, but when we have a listing, we typically sell it in 1 or 2 days. I mean, before I have the photographer go out there, take pictures. Before I can list the pictures, I've sold the home. And that's what, but because we're empowering the community, Facebook, radio, 2 radios, 3, 5 days a week, I'm doing radio and I'm helping the community. Do me a favor, and let me first, before I ask for your favor, let me thank the many of you who referred DeVille Realty Group. Let me appreciate the many of you who've given our phone number. I've had people call me and say, DeVille, can I give your number? Listen, I'm going to ask you by way of Facebook and radio live. Give my number, please do. No worries. I give it over to 10,000s of listeners every week. Just giving my number out. I want to hear from you. Maybe we can't sell it. Maybe the bank ends up foreclosing. Maybe you will have to bankrupt. Now remember, after 2 years after discharge, you can purchase a home again. So even though someone may have to, or maybe you've already done a bankruptcy, you just want it to be done with it, and you put the home in there. Well, the mortgage company can't talk to you because you put the home in the bankruptcy, so they can't talk to you. So now, again, selling may be the option, taking the equity you have, because while you're doing the bankruptcy, you still can't take the equity. You got the home, but you got $150,000 in equity. So how do I access my equity, Mr. DeVille? You can't, unless you get 1 year full payment. Then you can talk about a cash out refi. And only then, with the cash out refi, it's only 80% of what the value, appraised value. So they're going to do an appraisal. They're only going to give you 80% of it. Okay? If you can do the refi, cash out refi. Now, when you sell the home, you get 100%. You get all your finance, minus some fees, escrows, some real estate commission, things like that. We'll do all the work for you. We'll negotiate the commission. You're going to hear a lot of people out there talking about, I'll do it for this. Remember, you get what you pay for. Somebody tell you 1%, remember, you get what you pay for. You want somebody to go out that's really going to represent you, that's really going to take your best interests at heart. That's what DeVille Realty is about. I've been in real estate over 30 years. I enjoy it. I flip, I buy. If you got an ugly home, you need to sell. You say, you know what, I just can't catch up on the mortgage. And the home it's in dire need of repair. Contact DeVille, 702-515-4100, or contact me direct, 702-515-4100. Alexis Law Group, Alexis Brown Law.
Yes.
She has given us so much information. We're on Facebook Live. Contact the office again. If you're in a rental situation, you're a landlord, you want to know some rights you have, 702-848-8806. Contact her directly. If you know that's you and you need that assistance, you want some more information. But if you know you haven't paid and you know you've been working, just move. Don't even make the call, because you know it's time to relocate. You're trying to finagle the system, and we get a lot of people like that. As I mentioned, the lady rented in the home, was still working. In fact, she was a nurse working during and just wouldn't pay, and now got mad because the landlord had to sell the home because she couldn't afford it. She lived in Texas. She couldn't afford a home there and here too. And then when she does come to check on the house, she sees a new truck in the driveway and says, there's my rent. And so if you know you've just moved, just real talk. You can be mad at DeVille, but the truth is the truth. If you know you've taken advantage of the system, you're gonna hate me for this. Move. If you know you have the money, you got PPP, and you went out and did a ton of other stuff. I was in the pawn shop the other day. The shelves are dry. I just stopped in to look. I like to look at. I like yard sales and pawn shop. I like a bargain. I dropped in, and I asked the guy at the pawn. I said, "Are you guys going out of business?" He said, "No, I'm not going out of business." He said, "They just bought up everything." I'm like, wow. The shelves were bare, but they're not paying the rent. They're not paying the mortgage. They're taking advantage of what's available. And so I say to you today, before we get ready to get out of here, is that, listen, Alexis Brown Law Group has done a wonderful job giving us this information. You need to contact her if you're in that position with as a landlord or a tenant. She can help you. Okay, now I'm Greg DeVille, and if I endorse you, I've had to prove your service. And so she's proven to be an exceptional attorney that can give great information. Guess what? We'll back that. We'll back that. So those of you that are listening to me, you've been listening to me for 5 years. I see I wasn't able to call the names today. I had my glasses on. I couldn't read it. Friday, glad you're here today. So many names. Wow. Mrs. B, you're on here. Archers are on here. Roderick, glad you're here. So many up in the queue right there. But listen, to all of you, we're getting ready to close down the Facebook. We've done a whole hour. Wow, time has really gone by. But that's okay, because it was worth it. 702-515-4100, or again, Alexis Brown Law, 702-848-8806. Listen, it's going to be a fabulous weekend, 4th of July, and you be safe. Don't drink and drive. We'll talk to you and not about you next time, okay? Take care. Bye for now.